Another trick I use is to set the line width at the given scale to be the width of HO track with ties, which is about 1 1/8 inches. This helps me not to get too optimistic when I'm drawing a track plan, because I know this is actually the width the track will take. An advantage of drawing the track plan on computer meant that I could print it out full size on sheets of paper and then tile it all together on the layout to see exactly where the track was to go according to the plan. It's tricks like this that make drawing your track plan on computer far outshine the old paper and pencil method. In my opinion, the learning curve is worth it to get advantages like this. The final factor that affects deck separation is deck width. The narrower the upper deck, the closer together the two decks can be, and you'll still be able to see all the tracks on the lower deck. After experimenting with mock-ups, I finally settled on a rule of thumb for the upper deck level, and that's to have its bottom edge at the end of my nose. For me, that sets the bottom edge of the upper deck at 67 inches. At this level, I don't stare into the lower deck lights, yet I can see all the track on the lower deck, although I may not be able to see all the backdrop or scenery at the back of the deck unless I stoop. Let's use a 3D computer model to see how the siscu-line benchwork goes together, stick by stick. Here we see a typical section of siscu-line mushroom benchwork. We've also added a couple of guys, one looking at the lower deck and one on the raised floor looking at the upper deck, so you can get a sense of scale and better understand which deck is where when looking at skeletal benchwork. They're about $3 each at Home Depot. You can screw the collar off and run wires from socket to socket real easily. I use 16 gauge wire to wire the sockets together, and to power the string of sockets I cut the end off of a heavy-duty extension cord and then just plug the lights in.
By plugging the wires in instead of hardwiring, then I guess they're technically temporary and the codes are more lax.
Yes, exactly. Each of the wall outlets is on a separate 15-amp circuit with a breaker. This is a messy job, so I like to use the rubber gloves when I do this part. I spread a bead of glue out on the spline, smear it around with a short scrap of spline, and then clamp it in place to the first spline with spring clamps. Get yourself a good collection of spring clamps so that you can clamp the spline every few inches. Then I just leave it to set up overnight. When you clamp the splines, the glue will ooze out, dripping on the bottom and beading up on the top. I run my finger along the top to remove any beads I see. I try to spread the caulk to a layer about 1/16 of an inch thick, so that the ties will sink down into it a bit. I connect the track up to the rail joiners and set it down into the caulk, pressing down along the length of the track to make sure it has solidly set down into the caulk.